A new study on training to failure was recently published, and I've had some people reach out to ask if it's changed my views that I've shared in previous videos on this topic. Now we're going to get to that in a moment, but first let's take a deep dive into the study because there's some valuable insights that we can take away from it. Now, first off, there was 24 participants in the study, 12 men and 12 women, between the ages of 18 and 40, natural lifters with at least 3 years of training experience and who work out at least 3 days per week. The participants performed 6 sets of the barbell bench press using 75% of their 1 rep max and resting for 4 minutes between sets. And each participant went through 3 different trials. In one trial, they were asked to perform every single set to the point of true momentary muscular failure, so 0 reps in reserve. And the way they measured that is that the participant would perform a set to the point where they required assistance from the spotter to help them rack the weight. In another trial, they were asked to leave 1 rep in reserve, and in the third trial, they were asked to leave 3 reps in reserve. And the great thing about this study is that the participants were coached as to what 1 rep in reserve felt like to them and what 3 reps in reserve felt like to them. The participants were also coached to consume an adequate amount of fuel before this training session. And what I would really like to see in future studies along these lines is get an idea of how much sleep the participants got prior to this training session here, what their stress levels were like, what their hydration levels were like, because I know for myself personally, even when I'm getting an adequate amount of fuel to perform my best, if I have a crappy night's sleep, it has a dramatic impact on my performance. If I'm under stress, it can have a big impact on my performance. And if I'm dehydrated, it can have a big impact on my performance. So it'd be great to have a little bit more data in here just to play around with, other than, all right, they consumed enough fuel. That's good enough. So more data I would love to see in the future. Now, this study didn't look at muscle gains. What they were measuring was the lifting velocity and how it changed from set to set between the 3 different trials there. And what they found was, they measured 4 minutes after completing the 6-set workout there, and then they had the participants come back 24 hours later to measure their lifting velocity, and then 48 hours later to measure their lifting velocity of the barbell bench press there. So what they found, of course, I think it's going to be pretty obvious here, when the participants performed 6 sets to the point of true momentary muscular failure, after doing 6 sets, 4 minutes after that, it was a significant difference in their lifting velocity compared to the first set they performed at the beginning of the workout. There was still a pretty good drop for the group who only left 1 rep in reserve, and a bit of a drop for even the group that left 3 reps in reserve. So 24 hours later, what they found was that the group who left 3 reps in reserve for all 6 sets was fully recovered. Their lifting velocity recovered already 24 hours later, and even the group that left 0 reps in reserve, trained to failure, and the group that left 1 rep in reserve, like their lifting velocity was getting damn close to fully recovered. And then after 48 hours, it was fully recovered from there. So what I gather from just this graph here, this chart, the lifting velocity, is that unless you are performing 6 sets for a muscle group every single day, your recovery when it comes to your lifting velocity is pretty much going to be the same. So it doesn't matter whether you're training to failure, leaving 1 rep in the tank or 3 reps in the tank, you're going to be fully recovered between your training session when it comes to your lifting velocity. They also were measuring perceived discomfort. So between sets, how fatigued they were, muscle soreness, all that kind of stuff, 24 hours later, 48 hours later. And definitely the group who trained to failure still felt some discomfort after 24 hours. After 48 hours, it wasn't so bad. So pretty much 48 hours, you're going to be fully recovered. So unless you're training, like I said, each muscle group, 6 sets, every single workout, you're going to be fine whether you train to failure or leave 1 rep in reserve, whatever you decide there. Now, the next chart is what I think we can really take some big takeaways from here. And that's where they looked at how many reps they performed for each of the 6 sets among the 3 different trials there. What they found was, let's just look at the men here, is that for the first set, using 75% of their 1 rep max, when they performed to the point of true momentary muscular failure, they hit 12 repetitions. When they were leaving 1 rep in reserve, 11 repetitions. Leaving 3 reps in reserve, they hit 9 repetitions. That's for the first set. By the time they got to the 6th set, the group who trained to the point of true momentary muscular failure was only getting 5 repetitions. So that's even with 4 minutes rest between sets. but not much different from the other two groups. The group that left 1 rep in reserve got 6 reps on that final set, and the group who left 3 reps in reserve also got 6 reps on that final set there. So really close towards the end, but when you're looking at the total reps performed, the group who all the participants, when they performed with leaving 1 rep in reserve, they were able to get, 49 repetitions in total for the 6 sets, whereas when they trained to failure, they only got 45 repetitions, and when they left 3 reps in reserve, they only got 44 reps throughout the total 6 sets there. So really fascinating, the 1 rep in reserve got the most total reps there. But I think there's lots of factors in play here. So looking at this, you would think that 1 rep in reserve is going to be the best, but we're looking at 6 sets here. If this study stopped at 3 sets, you'd basically see that, all right, it's the group that trained to failure that ended up getting more total repetitions in here. And even if you take it to 4 sets, it'd pretty much be equal among the group who trained to failure and the group who left 1 rep in reserve. It's not till you start doing more sets that the training to failure group you really start to see the performance drop off there. But if you look at this graph here, like every single group, whether you leave 3 reps in reserve, 1 rep in reserve, or train to failure, your performance is decreasing with each set. So you got to think to yourself, if you're doing more than 6 sets for a muscle group in a workout, how much more is your performance diminishing as you're going along here? Are you just wasting your time doing more sets for a muscle group in that workout? Those are definitely things to consider. And looking at this graph, I think one of the biggest takeaways that I take from this is exactly what the authors mentioned in their conclusion, is that if you're performing, I don't want to say less volume, because I don't necessarily think it's less volume, but fewer sets for a muscle group in your workout plan, you're going to want to train to the point of true momentary muscular failure. But if you're doing more sets in your workout, you may want to leave 1 rep in reserve, or maybe a couple of reps in reserve there. So it depends on how your training is structured. And this is exactly what I've been saying in previous videos, is that because I am training, I want to get in and out of the gym. I want my workouts to be time efficient. I want to get 45 to 60 minute workouts where I'm giving my best effort. So knowing that I want my workouts to be efficient, there's fewer sets for a muscle group in there. I'm going to train to the point of true momentary muscular failure. And that's different from when I was spending more time in the gym before, like 75 to 90 minutes in the gym. I was doing more sets for a muscle group in a workout. I left reps in reserve for my first couple of sets there. I'd leave like 2 to 3 reps in reserve for the first set, 1 to 2 reps in reserve for the second set, and then it would be a last set, best set, training to failure. So I changed my approach based on how many sets I'm performing for a muscle group in a workout there. So it's great to see that conclusion there. I guess you could kind of say maybe it's common sense, but at least now we have some data to roll with that. But again, if you're going to do, I just find it kind of pointless at this point to do more than 6 sets for a muscle group in a workout. Likely not only experiencing diminishing returns, but could be just detrimental to your gains. Or again, we're just looking at lifting velocity here. Like I said, we're not measuring muscle gains or anything like that. Just things to take into perspective. Now, lots of limiting factors here. Again, although they were coached as to what 1 rep in reserve feels like, or what 3 reps in reserve feels like we still know that based on the past research, even though we're experienced, it's still difficult for me at this stage of game, 35 years of lifting, to fully, truly know if I've got like 3 reps in reserve. 1 rep in reserve, much, much better at guessing that. But even in this study, like who knows if those people tried to perform 1 more set, if they would have got stuck there. Like you don't know, or maybe they had 2 reps that they could have did. It's a little bit difficult to tell. We're kind of relying on like subjective measurements there. So things to take into consideration there. Things to take in consideration is like the type of exercises that you're performing. Here we're looking at the bench press, a demanding exercise, which could be the same as like if you're doing a flat bench press and an incline bench press. It's 2 like big compound movements. But what if you're going to do 3 sets of the bench press and 3 sets of the flies? Is it going to have the same kind of impact there? It's tough to say. Again, we're going to need more studies, more research, and comparing with different exercises, isolation exercises versus compounds. I think Isolation exercises, I think we should be training to failure for most of those, but bigger compound lifts would be smart to leave a rep in reserve. Even with the bench press, I mean, they had a spotter there. I never want to push to that point where I can't get that bar up myself. That's just not the way I like to train. Definitely not when it comes to like something like the squat or anything like that as well. So exercise selection is going to have a big impact. But yeah, so definitely limitations. But again, like I said, this study doesn't change my mind on how I was approaching. It just kind of solidifies the way I was been approaching my training there. Other limitations with it, I mean, we're looking at 24 people, 12 men, 12 women. Like, are you really going to change your views based on one study like this that didn't even measure muscle gains or anything like that, just on a handful of people? No, it gives you food for thought. Take it with a grain of salt. Use it as some guidance, but listen to yourself. Have that heightened sense of awareness as to what's going to suit you best, how you're going to recover best. Because I know for myself personally, when I'm training to failure, doing fewer sets for a muscle group in a workout, I recover better than when I'm doing more sets, leaving some reps in reserve there. I just find that accumulated fatigue of doing more sets, even though it's not to failure, just makes it more difficult for me to recover from. So we're all different. You got to know yourself. But again, this is just one more study to add to the bit, but the thing that's always most important is listening to yourself. Have that heightened sense of awareness as to what you're going to respond best to. So hope you enjoyed this video. Would love to hear your thoughts and insights on this study itself, on training to failure, as we've been talking about all along here for the past few weeks here. Would love to hear from you. So please take a moment to share your thoughts, insights, and feedback down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, please do me a huge favor and smash that thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the alert button so you're notified each time I upload a video. And if you know a fellow bro who would benefit from watching today's video, please do me a favor and share it with them. And before you go, don't forget to download your free guide, Lose Fat, Get Jacked. I'll include a link down below in the description as well as a top pinned comment. Have yourself an amazing day. I'll catch you in the next video.